agree.
You can't carry that name. So Heaton, if you're listening, there's a business idea for you right there. A little ninja outfit, but pajamas. Maybe a onesie. Maybe a
that could work.
That's what they could play in the LCS.
The thing is,
onesies.
it would have to be a full ninja outfit with, you know, the face mask, the face mask and everything. They could probably brand it as well. You know, get some sponsors logos on there.
I'm sure they could.
I know it would draw a lot of photos.
Idea, marketing right there for you guys. But we are about to get underway, ladies and gentlemen. It is the all-Polish lineup of MeetYourMakers versus the all-Danish lineup of the Ninjas in Pyjamas. And obviously, as the Scandinavian team, you're going to assume that Ninjas in Pyjamas will be the favorite ones here. Of course, we are about to get underway. This is the last game of the day as well, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back at 10 a.m., which is in around about 11 hours time. So get yourself some rest after this game, guys, because there's going to be 10 more matches tomorrow.
10 more awesome matches, and especially if the trend of today's games continues. Right now, once again, defensive starts out of everybody. There's been one game where there was low-level engagements, and this does not look like it's going to be another one of them.
No, it doesn't. Sharo's keeping the ball in play, keeping that bush checked, and again, we just don't get any luck with these level 1 fights, mate. It's just not happening.
No, there's bad juju between us and level 1, you know, engagements, but it's okay because the games have turned out fantastic as they have progressed. I would like to see how these lanes match up, because look at how Ninjas in Pyjamas have stacked up. They've got their duo lane almost signaling they want to go middle. You've got Bjergsen going top. Makate, he's going to be able to walk away from the Svenskeren. Is he going to level the queue? If he does, they've got no CC. So basically, they just walk in and said, well, you go swim somewhere else.
Yeah. He's just going to walk away from that one, happily put the ward down. They're not going to go for the full invade for the red. Does mean, of course, the Tribush was covered down the bottom lane. They're going to get the ward in the bottom river. It is going to be Libic that places it down there. Where was the Explorer ward used? I didn't see where that actually went down, but we'll be timing out shortly. Libic still hasn't used his Explorer ward just yet. And, of course, the river completely covered off, and MeetYourMakers starting off down this bottom lane. It's going to be standard lane formation setup as well, but 3 members, so they're actually helping Makata out there to take the double golems and then going straight round in a heavy hand to help him on the red.
So basically, if they could get him that early level advantage, it allows him to gank at an earlier stage. And I think MYM have mind game Ninjas in Pyjamas. They've gone, well, we know Lulu Kate, we anticipate them coming middle, so let's try and get Nautilus to a ganking position sooner, so we can interrupt the flow, interrupt the game plan of Ninjas in Pyjamas, and we'll see if it actually pans out that way.
Well, we do see the lane switching around. The Test has gone into the mid lane along with Deficio up against him. Oh, we do see Godbro actually getting lashed there by Libic, and that forces Godbro well away from that lane, having to chug through those pots. So Sharu now up against the 2v1 in this mid.
So we'll see how well he can do. He's obviously got the Command Protect shield off some of that damage if he can get them on time, but some great poke from both Deficio and the Testers forced him to chug through some of those potions already. And you can see he started with the cloth 5 pots, so he knew that this was going to be the lane matchup. He manages to sidestep that Pult over Peacemaker.
Well, I mean, it makes sense, even up against obviously Bjergsen as well. He had to go the cloth 5, so Bjergsen, that means, is going to be up in the top lane against Kubon. So it's going to be Elise versus Kha'Zix, and actually that's not a bad fight for Kubon.
No, it's one that actually can go either way depending on who gets the early poke down. Both champions have got that like mini sustain from Elise's Spiderlings and from the Void Spikes of Ka, but it's not very big numbers. So basically whoever can get their poke to stick longer has the potential to execute one another.
Oh, Makata and Svenskeren going head to head. They're both with the double buff. Neither really going right. You can have the race, and it's a standoff. They're like, who wants to start the race? Not me.
And of course, this is an advantageous position for Svenskeren because he has the numbers advantage in the middle lane. If the Test and Deficio come to play, that's going to be a 3 versus 2 in the best case scenario for MYM. Svenskeren does just have smites available, so he may decide to just smite this big wraith and then back away.
Well, he's going to keep Makata away. He does use the smite. Deficio comes around to try and bully him out. Meanwhile, down that bottom lane, Godbro did get hooked briefly there by Libic, but they are keeping the pressure on towards the top turret. And the top lane, actually, Bjergsen's been taking a lot of damage from Kubon.
So there's one thing that is playing into the favor of MeetYourMakers now. Not only has Kubon put a lot of pressure onto Bjergsen, he's also farming very well right now in comparison to Godbro, who is 10 CS behind. So if you just go on base statistics and items, etc., obviously you want Elise to get more farm. She needs items to have a bigger impact in those team fights than what Zac does.
Yeah, in terms of CS between both AD carries, it's fairly close still. And actually across the board, the big advantage is that Godbro is just being completely harassed out of it down the bottom, whereas Kubon, he's quite happily farming in that top lane along with Bjergsen. Godbro is not doing so well in this 2v1 lane compared to Sharu in the mid lane.
Now, the fact that he's, a melee champion is obviously going to play against him. He does have the sustain from that passive, but it's not massive numbers, and you can basically just see him doing the best that he can to CS underneath this tower and takes a lot of damage, gets hooked up for his troubles, the play backwards. Godbro's low.
Takes him very low, but Svenskeren is back there to cover off the lane, and maybe just buy Godbro a little bit of time. Instead, it's Svenskeren that's going to go back. Makata shows himself in that mid lane, still with that double buff on, but unable to
the hook!
anything. The hook does land out there. But, well, Makata's actually happy to go going in the mid lane, keeping the pressure down.
So remember, as long as that shield is up for Nautilus, his Titan's Wrath, he's going to be dealing that percentage HP as well as missing HP damage as he continues to attack. So it's very, very important to focus that shield down before you continue the trade. And that's basically what the Tess and Deficio did. The moment they got hooked and rooted, they just popped the shield and they went, well, if you want to stick around, we will out DPS you.
And this trade is working very well for MeetYourMakers, because you can see that tower on that bottom lane is going to be the first one to go down. Meanwhile, the mid turret, it's still at half health, so looks like MeetYourMakers are going to draw the effective first blood, taking that tower down in the bottom lane. 6 minutes into this game, they're just farming out in between, and the last hit will come through. So MeetYourMakers, what will they do with it? They now have the map available to them to rotate around. Looking like the mid lane maybe where the focus is going to be, though. We can see Makata coming back in there again. Sharu has just come back from buying, got himself that tier of the goddess. He's going to be farming for days in the mid.
So initially I had thought that Ninjas in Pyjamas were going to try to do a very early tower push, and by putting Kate and Lulu there, it sort of signaled it. But they haven't been overly aggressive with the push. They haven't used, their respective Q spells to shove the lane as quickly as they could. And of course, you've seen Makata spend a lot of time in that mid lane, basically preventing the Tess and Deficio doing that. Basically hanging around saying, well, we don't want you to play that strategy. So instead, the jungler will camp, he'll put himself a little bit behind in terms of overall farming, but basically save the tower, and it's worked out because they've got the first, objective of the game.
You see Svenskeren looking towards this top lane. Maybe he's going to try and get something on towards Kubon. Kubon hasn't noticed him. The switch to spider form, switch around. Bjergsen trying to bait him in there, making sure he keeps the CS going. Will he notice the fact that he just got that large minion and Bjergsen didn't level up to 6? Kubon's thinking, I hit 6 before Bjergsen there. Potentially someone could be close.
Yeah, and right now Bjergsen, he's already been back, got that tier, got that longsword, got a very, very big wave of creeps to farm up in front of him. You never really want to fight and gank when you got that much CS to potentially lose. The hook goes out, just goes awry of the Tess. A little bit low on mana anyway, but you can see Svenskeren sniffing around. Junglers are trying to find an opportunity, but neither team is really given a reason to engage.
We do see actually in this mid lane now that with Deficio just hanging around, still sticking there with his AD carry, the Tess. Sharu did have Libic with him for a short time, but Libic now going down towards the bottom. They're going to come around the backside of Godbro, and they're going to try and turn aggressive here. He's going to try and launch himself away, but remember, Libic can hook him in there. Does go for the flame, has to use Let's Bounce to try and get away from this one. Will the hook land? Oh, just at the end of Let's Bounce, fantastically caught on there. Oh, just as he's going to be enough to take him down. Deficio is going to come in. Will he be able to try and defend out this passive? One more shot from Max, that should be enough. He tries to take him down, but there is the first blood. It took a long time to come, but it's Libic that picked it up.
And they landed every single ability that they needed to. Ninjas in Pyjamas giving that up, but first blood did go to Thresh. Take a look at Sven.
Svenskeren caught out there, and it's going to be Kubon that dives in towards him. He's going to go down, gives the red buff back to Kubon, and now it's 2 for 0 to MeetYourMakers.
And Mokate has stolen away the blue buff. Now, I was trying to say how first blood going to a support is not the end of the world as far as the team is concerned, because that gold will go to aura items or to HP items as opposed to going to carry will now kill me items. The hook is caught Deficio.
The hook on Deficio, it's not going to be enough to follow it up, though. The test does come in to support him, and that's damage being done. And MeetYourMakers looking good here. The blue buff steal, the red taken back away from Svenskeren, and now the blue buff of their own being picked up by Sharu puts them in a commanding position. The gold lead stretched immediately to 2.5k.
That was a great play there from Libic as well. He landed the death sentence, and there's that Lee syndrome that when you land the Q, you want to press it again to dive in. But Libic realized that even though he'd hooked Deficio was level 6, he had wild growth available, and there simply wasn't enough damage for Grave to follow up and get the kill. So basically he just says, I'll catch you another day.
Godbro farming back out in that mid lane, keeping things going. But I tell you what, terms of CS, in terms of farm, Bjergsen's fallen behind Sharu. You see Kubon, he's stretching ahead of Godbro, and the AD carries. That's the only difference. The Tess has been keeping them in it here. He's still got that 10 CS difference. Hasn't quite pushed the tower down though, of course, and that's what MeetYourMakers have. They're starting to take advantage of their map positioning, starting to try and shove them down, and NIP, you've got to be careful they don't let this one snowball away from them.
So they've just started warding up the river as well, because they realize with that bottom tower down, MYM's focus is going to be on this dragon in the next couple of minutes. They're going to be looking to try force the objective. You were touching on Bjergsen's farm, and dare I say it, but Kubon might be the first player to control Bjergsen in a lane. He's got ahead of him. He's kept Bjergsen from really having an impact in that matchup, and you know, we have seen Bjergsen have slow starts before, but he tends to keep up in CS, and he's not doing it this time around.
Godbro is actually falling way behind on Kubon as well. Kubon's getting all that free farm in the top lane, but of course NIP are going to come around and try and take away this dragon. Livic is there ready and waiting. They're going to come around. I'm not too sure if they're going to try and interfere. We are seeing Makata coming around. He might try and dive in for this one, but he's not going to in time. And we do see Bjergsen jumping in there, and immediately they back away. Dragon picked up by NIP. Bjergsen's not finished here yet though. He's going to go back in towards Makata. Godbro launches himself in there. Let's bounce going off. It's going to be enough to bounce off Makata, but the rest of the team is there in defensive formation. They would have gone straight into the shockwave ball.
Yeah, so it was a good play to decide to back away out of that. Svenskeren was looking for the Dragon's Rage kick, trying to set it up, forced to put a ward down and jump over the wall to safety while the rest of MYM were closing on. The entirety of that engagement, Kubon has been pushing this top lane tower down. He won't get it on this wave, but he may be able to do it on the next one.
But the mid lane will go down. I don't think there's anything they can do to prevent MeetYourMakers taking it down. Just need a little bit of tanking up there. Shockwave goes off. NIP do try and get away from it. Dupicio gets hooked in there. Has to use the wild growth on himself. The box goes down along with the tower. Svenskeren's taken very low. The ignite will not be enough to finish him off though. And MeetYourMakers take down 3 turrets, 2 back-to-back in very quick succession.
Yeah, and that was such a fantastic shockwave. Charu hit 4 members of Ninjas in Pyjamas. If he does that again in a team fight where Nautilus isn't tanking the turret for 10 years, they're going to win that team fight. He's even cheeky enough to steal the big wraith away.
Very cheeky indeed. And Duke continues to push. He stamps on those little globules of Godbro, keeping him away. So gold lead stretching ever so slightly again. You can see it is 3.5k now. Every time they gain a little advantage, they take a 1,000 gold lead, and it's starting to become a problem because they can start to turn into items, the experience they'll gain from it, and it's going to be a problem. Look at Sharu, he's 2 levels over Bjergsen right now. Look at Kubon, he's 2 levels over Godbro. This is starting to become an issue.
And that is with the dragon on the side of NIP, so even if they even out the towers, they're still going to be behind a gold. Bjergsen's been taken so low.
Sunk the fangs in there, Kubon, and just forces him to jump away. Hasn't hit 11 yet, so he hasn't managed to get that second evolution of the jump, so he can't be too cautious, too abrasive in the top lane. And Kubon, well, he's becoming a bit of an unstoppable machine on there. He's got all that magic pen. You can see the haunting guys in there as well as the sorcerer's boots. He's going to cause problems for anyone.
Yeah, and basically the null magic mantle that Bjergsen's picked up, plus the little bit of ammo from the Hex Drinker, it's simply not enough. He is being beaten out by Kubon's Elise, and we'll see how well that is going to affect him in the matchup, because in terms of head-to-head, it's a 20 CS deficit that Bjergsen's playing from right now. And this is the second game of the day that NIP are playing from behind. Blue buff is up, and Makata is pretty much going to say, I want this.
Yeah, remember, they have the timing on it perfectly because they did take it round in the last time. Pink ward gets put down by Livic there, wants to make sure it's all clear, does happily stand on that trap of Caitlyn, and they are pinging on the blue buff. MeetYourMakers, they're going to forcefully take this one.
Yeah, they've got the ability to do so because they've got positioning and vision. So if NIP go in on this, it's going to be blind, but Svenskeren wants to. The cocoon goes out, he just misses, and Kubon, that was the ball delivery system right there. Command protect, onto release, get the repel down, and then get the shockwave. But NIP just weren't stacked up enough for the engagement.
And the blue buff goes across to Sharu, so they've managed to steal that away once again, and now look how far they're going up. Look how aggressive they're being. Sharu really wants to go on the hunt, and it's this inner turret they're now looking towards. The creep wave will be coming, joining up there. Makata happily to tank out that wave, stand on that trap, clear it out, and now they're all 4 members going to push in. While this is all happening, we do see Bjergsen going aggressive in the top lane. The hook comes in on towards Svenskeren. I'm not too sure. Bjergsen's going to get taken down in the top lane. The Kubon is very low as well. Kubon on the turret. Oh, he just about got away from it, but it's going to be the top turret, the bottom inner turret that goes down, and NIP forced to back away once again.
The ignite wasn't enough. Kubon just managed to survive up there in the top lane. They traded back and forth, but Bjergsen technically won that engagement. Now he knows the shockwave is down, so he was thinking about the fight. There goes Sharu.
Charu using the teleport to get in there, does manage to use the ball control, doesn't quite land it this time. He's going to continue chasing, he will have the defensive. Bjergsen trying to separate him. Is it going to be enough damage though? He's going to have those voice box back in a moment. You can see the ball landing again. Defensive ball comes in. Charu played that very, very well. Did just enough to hold Bjergsen in place.
Yeah, and he had no Summonate Ignite to do that. It was just purely using the abilities with that blue buff. Bjergsen stood his ground, even through the Hex Drinker was taken out. And I think he maybe overestimated his damage, but he had no boots either. So it's not like he could have run away. Orianna would have constantly sped herself up and continued to chase. So I think Bjergsen just tried to make the best of a bad situation.
So 3-0 in kills, and the gold just continues to dribble all the way towards MeetYourMakers. 4-0 in turrets without any reply, and honestly, NIP are not even close to taking them turrets yet either.
They've got no ability to overextend. They cannot go past the river without running the risk of being jumped on and being killed. And because the initiation power of Nautilus and Orianna is that high, they need to play super ultra defensive. And it's like they did earlier in the day, and we'll probably continue to see them doing throughout this match.
So Makler now got himself that Infinity Edge almost complete. Just needs to get that final piece of the puzzle. Meanwhile, the test, we'll see what he goes towards, expecting maybe a Bloodthirster in there, but the Tear of the Goddess been picked up, of course, by Charu and Bjergsen a while ago, and they're both stacking it out there, and that's really what Bjergsen's waiting for. He needs that Mirror Mana completed. It's going to be a while away, though. He's got to get that Manimune first, try and start stacking it up as much as possible. Does he want to go aggressive this time onto Kuban? Does manage to go in, gets a good chunk of damage. Kuban tries to turn it back around on Bjergsen. And honestly, this is a very close trade between these two players.
So basically, with the items that Bjergsen's been able to pick up, he's finally able to trade a little bit more evenly with Kuban, and he's actually fighting him toe-to-toe, which we've not seen him doing right now. Svenskeren is still hanging around in this top lane, and we'll see whether or not they want to set up the gank. But the build that Bjergsen is doing, it's been completely reactionary. He's needed to defend against Elise as opposed to building the traditional damage.
Bjergsen, he did just have a trade a moment ago on the turret, but he couldn't finish it off. That's obviously why Charu came up there. We do see the Dragon going down. MeetYourMakers will take that one for free. Svenskeren was trying to set up that kill in that top lane, but as you see, Charu wasn't falling for it. Sorry, Kuban wasn't falling for it, and that was a free Dragon this time around for MeetYourMakers, and that takes the gold lead to 5.5k now. And now Kuban, he's going to go aggressive. In comes Charu. He has got that ball delivery system, as you called it. Not going to go for it this time, though.
Very, very wisely, Bjergsen decides to back away the moment that ball came into shot. They were thinking about the dive, thinking about going for it. His Ignite was almost available, so if they dragged out that fight a couple of seconds longer, they may have been able to pick up the final tick. But instead, wisely, they back off. Very impressively by Bjergsen, he's actually caught up some of that missing CS. Originally, he was about 20 to 25 behind Kuban. Now he's actually 7 ahead. So, good counterplay to pull himself a little bit further back into this game.
I feel like Godbro really needs to start getting involved as well. He's farming, he's desperately trying to catch up, trying to do something to make himself useful, but simply put, he was outdone in the lane, and Kuban is way ahead of him in terms of farm and items. Meanwhile, of course, the mid lane, the fact that we're seeing Charu completely out-farming Bjergsen is massive, because on Kha'Zix, once you hit that 6, you can farm so easily, and he's just struggling right now. He's finally got that Brutalizer complete, so he will be able to put the damage. You can see him clearing out that wave very quickly. But honestly, Charu's done a fantastic job of keeping control. Considering he was in that 2v1 situation earlier on against the Tess and Deficio, he's managed to keep going so successfully.
Now, to be very fair as well, he was babysat in the early levels, so he was able to get to level 6 a little bit safer. And then when you're at level 6 as Orianna, it's very difficult to fall super far behind, because you can't dive, you can't, play super aggressive, because that shockwave is just so powerful. So, like you said, he's been farming incredibly well, approaching the 20 minutes mark, and that gold lead has stayed stable at around 4,000 or 5,000 gold. If Ninjas in Pyjamas can hold out, they will scale to a point where they can contest the battle, but right now they're just too far behind. This is what, the 3rd blue buff in a row that's been stolen.
Yeah, they're happy to just come around there. This time around it's going to be Makler that gets it, double buff picked up on him, and now they're choosing to go towards that mid lane. Ooh, the test almost went in there as well. The hook coming out from Makata, not going to quite land. They have got that wombo combo of double hooks, of course, from Libic and Makata, but as of yet, they haven't landed both.
No, they haven't really had a very big engagement. The times we've seen the shockwave, it's for tower defenses. Right now, Bjergsen is looking to set up a fight. There's the ward, no Dragon Rage kick, and you see the Cocoon.
The Cocoon goes in, and Svenskeren almost getting melted. Wild Growth has to get used. Kuban's going to jump in, sinks his fang straight in there. That's going to be the shockwave pulling them back in, and Bjergsen's just getting melted. It's Makata that picks up the kill. Now Godbro is going to get pulled in. You see the Dark Passage from Makler. He's He's going to have to use Let's Bounce to get away from that one. And again, another 2-for-0 fight. This time, MeetYourMakers, they turn to Baron.
Ninjas and Pyjamas needed to back off sooner. They tried to force a fight, and when MYM were a little too far away, they stuck to the guns, and that just got them caught. Svenskeren dove in there with the intent to kick someone back, but then got cocooned. Right now, 5 members of MYM, they are on Baron. Let's Bounce has been used, the flashes available. Will we see an attempt? Not even a try.
Not even try. We saw the Piltover come across, but honestly, Svenskeren was a level behind Makata as well. Doesn't really want to go launching himself in there. Was absolutely miles away from the fight as well because he did get killed off early on. So that's going to be the Infinity Edge completed for Makler when he goes back to buy. But honestly, this is a full control MYM right now. And again, this could be 2-0 for one of the new teams.
It definitely looks to be that way right now. With the Baron buff on, it's going to allow them to just siege and push and chase. And, you know, any poke that they take from the Kha'Zix, from the Caitlyn, it's just going to be regen relatively quickly. They've got fantastic wave clear, so they can be sitting at a tower for the entirety of this Baron buff and just poking away slowly but surely, getting the Orianna auto attacks and the Grave auto attacks down, and eventually whittling that tower away.
It's got to be a worry for NIP, the fact that 20 minutes in, they're yet to get a kill on MeetYourMakers. And now MeetYourMakers starting to come together as a team, seem to have that better team fight control, better ability, the fact that every time Shockwave's available, they are going to be looking for that team fight.
Yeah, that's a good point actually, because we've seen a good number of Shockwaves from Orianna at the 20-minute mark, and that's not always the case. We don't always see those ultimates being used for tower pressure and for, you know, these minute skirmishes. The value of that ultimate tends to mean that it gets saved for those very, very big fights. But right now, once again, there's the hook. They've got Sven.
Well, they managed to get on there, and that's going to be the cocoon going in. Svenskeren just getting dropped. Wild Growth had to be used once again, but it doesn't matter because Makler just melts him as he tries to back away. And that is yet another kill being picked up for MeetYourMakers as well as the inner turret. They are in destructive performance right now, and they are not afraid to close this game out. They're pushing for it.
No, not at all. After the stint that they had with the Dragonborns, where it took them 1,000,000 years to try close out any games, they've learned their lessons, and they've found out how to pressure and when to pressure. A hook again.
Another hook, this time Björn gets pulled in. Double hook, Shockwave pulls him in and just melts away. Jumps off from it and does manage to survive. Has to use his ultimate to just run like the wind in stealth form. But it's not going to be enough. It's going to be the inhibitor turret going down. MeetYourMakers looking very strong in game 2 now.
I sincerely hope that Element is watching, because this is Hook City, Hook Line and Sinker. Nautilus hook into Thresh hook again.
Another
and again.
hook.
They've done it again.
The Test gets caught out this time around. He's going to be able to get away. No, he isn't. It's another kill being picked up by Makler. There's a second. Svenskeren going down. And MeetYourMakers 22 minutes into this game and looking to finish.
MYM may be able to finish. They've got the time. There's 20-second death timers. They've got a massive creep wave sitting on the Nexus turrets. 1 and 2 will drop, but NIP are going to have to pull off a hell of a defense to save this Nexus.
What a game from MeetYourMakers. 8-0 in kills, 11,000 gold advantage, 8-0 in turrets, and the Nexus goes down. The Polish powerhouse are looking on form in their second match of the LCS as they join Fnatic, going 2-0 for the weekend.